And I call the member for Rankin.
Thank you, Speaker. My questions to the Prime Minister. I refer to the Treasurer's announcement that, and I quote, "The Morrison government is providing an unprecedented $314 billion in economic support, the equivalent of $12,500 for every Australian man, woman and child." End quote. How much of this announced support has actually been delivered by the government?
The Treasurer has the call.
Well, Mr Speaker, let's go through it. In relation to the cash flow boost, 785,418 recipients have received $24.1 billion, Mr Speaker. In relation to economic support payments phase number 1, which is in relation to the $750 payments, 7.3 million people received $5.5 billion. In relation to economic support payments phase number 2, 4.9 million have received $3.7 billion. In relation to the coronavirus—
The member for Rankin's— I've already asked him to cease interjecting. I've got to say, there's lots of complaints in question time. He's asked a very direct question, and the Treasurer is answering it very directly, and he's still interjecting. He does not have to add it up for you. He does not have to add it up for you. He's giving the figures. The Treasurer has the call.
Quit, Mr Speaker. The member for Rankin should quit while he's ahead and say no more. Mr Speaker, the coronavirus supplement gone to 2.3 million people at $9.7 billion. Mr Speaker, in terms of JobKeeper, 996,388 businesses, Mr Speaker, with more than 3.5 million employees have received $42.27 billion, Mr Speaker, and that program is costed at $101 billion. The reality is, Mr Speaker, we're getting on with the job of helping businesses stay in business and people stay in jobs. Now, Mr Speaker, when it comes to our $314 billion, which is a 15.8% of GDP, we'd also like to see the states contribute more, Mr Speaker, because their contribution, Mr Speaker, has been around 2.4% of gross state product, Mr Speaker. That is in comparison to our 15.8%. Now, Mr Speaker, we hear from the member for Rankin. He often is complaining about debt and deficit, but then asking us to spend more, Mr Speaker. We're asking a member for Rankin. He'd been asking for a transition down from JobKeeper. Now he said he's not in favour of a transition. The member for Rankin said people on JobKeeper were getting paid too much. Now he wants the people on JobKeeper to be paid more, Mr Speaker. The member for Rankin is jumbled. His head is jumbled with all these different facts and figures. The member for Rankin should no longer be known as the member for Rankin. He should be known as Jumble Jim, Mr Speaker.